Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 of Google Sheets Level 1 training. If you haven't watched part 1, please go to my blog, Google Training with Matt, and watch it. If not, you're ready for part 2, so let's go ahead and get started. Here is the data from part 1. We created a small grade book, and now I want to create a chart to show the information. So let's go ahead and highlight the information that I want. I'm going to start with A1. I'm going to drag down all the way through E6. I'm going to let up. Now I'm going to go to Insert and slide down to Chart. Now Google will automatically pick a chart that you might like. Don't worry, you can always change it. Right now, on the right side of my screen is the chart editor. Google has picked a column chart for me, and I can change it by clicking it. Here are all the charts that you can change yours into. I'm going to stick with column chart. Below that is a word called stacking. Let's go ahead and see what it does. Well, that changes my chart, so I don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and go back. Next is the data range. That's the range that I highlighted, A1 through E6. Let's take a look at the x-axis. The x-axis is at the bottom, and those are the first names of my students. Well, maybe I want to change it to maybe the last names of my students. So I'm going to change it by going to the 3 dots. I'm going to edit. I'm going to change the A's here in that range to the B's, because that's what it's in my spreadsheet. B1 through B6. Now I'll click on OK. Now you can see the last names are displayed at the bottom on the x-axis. Now there's also a label here on those bars, and that's the last names. Maybe I want to change that to the first names. I'm going to go to the 3 dots and edit. This time I want to change the B's to the A's because that's what it's in column A. And I'll click on OK. Now my first names are in the middle of those columns. Let's go ahead and slide down. The series are the chapters 1, 2, and 3, and they're color-coded at the top of my chart, blue, red, and yellow. If I wanted to take one of those away and compare chapter 1 to chapter 3, I'm going to click on the 3 dots on chapter 2 and remove it. Now I'm comparing just chapter 1 with chapter 3 tests. Let's go ahead and undo that by hitting the undo button at the top of my chart. Let's slide down a little bit more and look at these other options. Let's try this one, switch rows and columns. Now you can see my students are at the top, color-coded with their chapters at the bottom. I think it's easier to look at on the other way, so I'm going to take that off. Some other things that you can do on your chart editor is customize. Let's go ahead and choose Customize. Let's start with the chart style. This is where you can change the background color, the font, and also the border color that goes around it. You can maximize your chart by making it really large, or you can make it 3D. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Next is the chart and axis titles. This is where you can give a title to your chart. Let's call it Semester 1 Grades. You can see that puts it at the top of my screen. I can change the font or the size of the title. I can make it bold or italicized, or I can even change the alignment to the center. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Let's choose Series. One of the things in Series that is neat are the trend lines. You can see what students are going up and what students are going down based upon their trends. Let's continue going down. Let's go to Legend. Right now my legend is at the top. Let's go ahead and change it to one of the sides or at the bottom. Let's change it to the right side. Here's my legend on the side. Those are the color codes of my chapters. Let's go to the horizontal axis. Under the horizontal axis, you can change the font and the size and the color. Same thing with the vertical axis. You can change the font, the size, and the color. The grid lines are at the bottom. If I wanted to make my grid lines smaller or larger, I can do that here, or I can change the color of them. Minor change there. But let's now go back up to the top of my screen. If your chart editor accidentally goes away, you can click on your chart and go to the three dots. Under the three dots, you can go to Edit Chart, and that brings back to the chart editor. Also under the three dots, you can delete your chart, or you can download it as a PNG image or even a PDF. You can publish your chart and choose a link or embed it into a web page. You would have to click Publish first. Underneath Publish Chart is Copy Chart. You can copy it and maybe put it into a Google document. One thing that I like to use is this one that's called Move to its own sheet. Under Move to its own sheet, you can click it, and it puts it down here at the bottom called Chart 2. I'm going to click it, and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Grades Chart. Also, under the triangle, you could change the color of the tab. Let's go back to Sheet 1. You can do the same thing here. You could rename your sheet or change the color. At the very bottom, if you needed to add more sheets, the plus sign will add more sheets. Hopefully you've learned something from this tutorial. If you need any help with Google Sheets, let me know. See you next week.